Let's bring in Michael Bossack now. He's a global affairs analyst and a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Great to see you, Michael. Let's just start with this virtual summit being hosted by the UK Prime Minister. It looks like these European allies, they want to be ready in case of a ceasefire deal. Do you think Europe is ready? What do you make of the actual real-world commitments that have been put forward so far?
Yeah, hi, Carl. Good to be with you. Well, I hope they're ready. They've had many years to get ready to arm themselves in anticipation of Trump 2.0. But I think the feeling in Ukraine and here in Moldova and the region is this is coming a little bit too late. One also has the feeling that this is putting the cart before the horse. I mean, okay, let's get the coalition together, but they're talking about a peacekeeping mission or observation mission. But of course, what we really need right now is commitments from Russia, as Mr. Starmer says, to make the guns fall silent. So where are we right now? The onus is clearly on Russia to either accept or reject the proposal, and then we'll find out who the real barrier to peace is. Sounds like, again, all very empowering and good words that will land nicely in Kyiv, but everyone here realizes in this region that there is cause for anxiety. It's very typical of Mr. Putin to use this void to go further.
Yeah, we heard there these G7 leaders kind of putting more pressure on Russia, saying if you don't sign on to this deal, there could be more sanctions. Do you think that Vladimir Putin is essentially stalling for time here to just gain even more of an advantage on the battlefield?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, just before coming on air, I checked the Ukrainian language Telegram channels. And right now, as we speak, Kyiv and Zhytomyr and Chernihiv have all come under attack from Russian drones. And this is a pretty bad one. They're not making the sounds or the actions of a credible partner for peace. And it does sound like Mr. Putin would like nothing more than to regain control over the Kursk region, also expand his holdings along the front line, and thirdly, of course, inflict as much damage as possible on Ukrainian cities, because we're at a point right now where he sees no solid red lines enforced by the United States.
You mentioned you're there in Moldova. You spend a lot of time in Ukraine as well, Michael. What's the feeling on the ground? Is there an optimism that we could be closing in on at least even a temporary ceasefire?
Well, on the one hand, life is much more normal here than Ukraine. You don't have the air raid sirens, but everyone realizes and feels how close they are to Ukraine. There are 80,000 Ukrainian asylum seekers here. But there's also that sliver of Russian-controlled land, pretty much called Transnistria. And you can talk to anyone here, Carl, and ask them what are the possibilities or worst-case scenario, and they'll always tell you, or at least 9 times out of 10, that, yes, Mr. Putin would like nothing more than to extend that land corridor he already has across the Dnieper River towards Mykolaiv, towards Odessa, towards the Moldova border, and even further. And that feeling, I think, is felt throughout the countries that border Ukraine.
We saw President Zelensky there, on this Zoom call, essentially with, about 25 other leaders. He's, it seems, really gotten Europe now behind him. To what extent do you think he's been able to kind of recover from what was this, disastrous meeting in the Oval Office? Where do you think the president of Ukraine stands now?
Yeah, well, to be interesting, because Mr. Trump did mention the possibility of Mr. Zelensky returning to the White House. But I'm sure all of us were raised in such a fashion where if someone throws sand in your face, you don't throw it right back. And I don't think there would be much support for Mr. Zelensky in Ukraine to go back and face possible further humiliation. Having said that, there are a host of domestic issues he has to deal with, in addition to trying to find peace for Ukraine, which, of course, people want very badly. But there are issues, for example, him resuming the fight against corruption, taking his hands off the media, also perhaps lifting martial law in Western regions where the war seems very distant. Because my fear is if some sense of normality doesn't start to come back in parts of Ukraine in the West, more people will leave, and they are leaving, and many, many more will not come back. So these are really important things to do, I think, kind of have a parallel track while you're still trying to find a path to peace.
Michael Bossack, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Always great to get your thoughts, especially at this late hour for you. We appreciate it.